You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Fancy Friday to all of you and yours. This is the Allman Report. Jamie Allman here with you on this Fall Friday. Man, things are going fast. Woo! It is just almost Thanksgiving already. And Christmas, everybody's decorating for Christmas now because everybody feels good about everything. Not everybody feels good about everything. John Bolton doesn't feel good about anything. You know what's interesting about interviewing John Bolton? This is like this outfit called News Nation, where they, or The Hill, sorry, same thing, where they put the subheadline, Trump sends shockwaves with appointments. And, of course, you know, with RFK, whatever, they're not shockwaves to anybody except the people who lost the election. So why do these journalists out there, the people that don't matter anymore, who've completely lost their relevancy, why are they talking about sending shockwaves? You mean among all the rhinos and all the warmongers, the people like John Bolton? You know, interviewing John Bolton right now is kind of like interviewing Punxsutawney Phil about the Easter Bunny. Because, you know, Punxsutawney Phil doesn't like all the attention the Easter Bunny gets all the time. Why does that animal always get all the attention? Hell, people go to church on that day, and plus they give out candy. And the Easter Bunny's all cuddly and everything else and just the sign of spring and fertility. And here I am, Punxsutawney Phil. Meaning I mean nothing to anybody except I'm just some groundhog who comes out of that hole or whatever that is once a year. But the Easter Bunny, everybody looks forward to that. They never look forward to what I'm doing. It's just a thing. All these idiots dress up in top hats and everything else. Jealousy is what Punxsutawney Phil would be emitting and emoting if asked about the Easter Bunny. And, of course, John Bolton is jealous, too.
I don't think either she or Matt Gaetz ought to have a confirmation hearing until they have both had full-field FBI investigation.
Oh, of course, yeah, right. Like no cabinet position has ever had a full-scale FBI investigation before they even get a hearing. John Bolton, though, typically doesn't even care about the Constitution of this country. He's a warmonger. He knows that Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard are going to probably uncover all the secrets of his dastardliness, and he and his team. So, of course, he thinks they ought to have FBI investigations beforehand. Unbelievable.
Why do you think? I think the Chinese would say
FBI investigations
maybe
into
they
Gabbard?
are serious. I think so, given the Russian propaganda that she has espoused over the past period of time.
Yeah, whatever. They've tried this before with Tulsi Gabbard. Of course, yeah. I mean, that's what Punxsutawney Phil would say about the Easter Bunny. You know, before Easter, or anybody trades baskets or gives them away, or even that or goes to church, there should be an FBI investigation of the Easter Bunny, given how nefarious this bunny has been throughout the ages. And by the way, the Easter Bunny doesn't have people with top hats around him, and that's suspicious to me. This has normal people around him. I have always, well, it's not really a fantasy, because that would be a little much. But I will tell you, Ethan, just one day, on Groundhog's Day, just one time, because we could find another groundhog and just rename him Punxsutawney Phil. Just one time where the groundhog comes out, somebody like would shoot him. You know, to trick him, you know. Hey, come on out. It's Groundhog's Day, Punxsutawney Phil. It's all right. Come on out of your, where did you come out of? A hole or something? I don't even remember.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's a hole.
A hole?
You know, you'd really upset a lot of people.
I know.
Those guys go out there, they wear top hats, they dress up for the occasion. I know.
That would send shockwaves through the groundhog community. If Punxsutawney Phil just came out and just No, I wouldn't. I don't want that. But you know what I mean. All right. Then we have the butthurt sore losers planning apparently a shadow government. Can you believe this? Like on up to the election, Trump and everybody else, will you accept the results of the election? Will you accept the results of the election? President Trump won't say if he accepts the results of the election. So we have the election, Trump wins, and now they don't accept the results.
If Trump attempts to weaponize the justice system against his political opponents with Matt Gaetz at the helm, we could see incoming Senator Adam Schiff as our shadow attorney general, arguing against replacing our independent prosecutors with Trump loyalists.
Yeah, I see. So now they're going to create a shadow attorney general. Can you imagine if Trump or anybody else talked about creating a shadow government? That would be an insurrection, wouldn't it? I don't know. I think it would.
If Trump seeks to eliminate the Department of Education, Congresswoman Johanna Hayes, a former Teacher of the Year, could step up as shadow education secretary to loudly defend public education.
I see. So they are going to take away from their actual legislative responsibilities and formulate a shadow cabinet. If that's not an insurrection, I don't know what is.
United States. If Trump orders Marco Rubio to hand Ukraine and much of Eastern Europe to Russian President Vladimir Putin, Congressman Greg Meeks, as Shadow Secretary of State, could be a strong voice in support of maintaining international relationships and protecting democracy at home and abroad.
Actually, you don't have the authority as a sitting U.S. senator or a congressperson to make arrangements that the Secretary of State would make. It's a violation of the Hatch Act. It's actually against the law for somebody who is not Secretary of State to wander over and start to formulate diplomatic relationships on behalf of the United States of America. You'd actually go to jail for that. But they don't care, right? They don't care because they're looking out for democracy. I think I love the one meme I saw. I can't remember who put it out there. And it was, well, it turns out Donald Trump is not a threat to democracy. He's a threat to bureaucracy. That's what apparently it is. I love it. All right. I've got a really special guest on this Fancy Friday coming right up in just a couple of minutes. You know her and you love her. And she's wonderful, so she's going to be on with me in just a few. I want to thank the Wallner Home Selling team for supporting free, common-sense, conservative radio. The Wallner Home Selling team, 314-810-SOLD is the number there. They guarantee to sell your home, and they want to make sure they're going to sell it at the highest price, no contracts whatsoever. They've got a ton of people who are already lined up wanting to buy homes, and the minute you call them at 314-810-SOLD, it kicks into gear. There's a major fight over your home, which is a good thing. Ends up in the highest prices you're going to find anywhere in the land for your home, and that's the Wallner Home Selling team promise. Rodney and Jen, longtime friends of mine, thank you for supporting free, common-sense, conservative radio. We'll be back on this Fancy Friday on the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Told you guys it was a fancy Friday, didn't I? That's what I do. And so we always make sure it's fancied up with great people, and this great person is a person we haven't talked to in a while. At least I haven't talked to in a while, and so happy to have the great Chanel Rian on the Allman Report tonight on this fancy Friday. Of course, Finer Point is her beautiful project there at OAN, and we'll talk more about how to get a hold of that on a regular basis. And Chanel Rian, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Jamie, it's so good to be back on with you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I know you're smiling because, man, this was quite the election. It was hard fought. I know that a lot of us knew it was going to happen, even if some people were unsure. I'm really a little bit disturbed by the reactions to Donald Trump's appointments to the cabinet. They're acting as if these are all balls in play, when generally protocol has always been that a president is allowed a wide expanse in terms of his choices for the cabinet. And yet now this is becoming to the point where even John Bolton's talking about FBI investigations before the hearings, and there are some people talking about punting Matt Gaetz, whatever. And the reality is Thune and these guys better realize that this consequential election was won, in my opinion, without them, and they will obstruct this at their own peril. What do you think about that?
This was won in spite of them, Jamie, and the trend of the government basically stepping in and saying, we, the government, override everything the people says is really well highlighted in the trend you just pointed out. And that is, you have these agencies standing up, DOJ, for example, standing up and saying that they operate in separate fashion from the executive branch. There's been a long form effort ever since President Nixon to take away the Article 2, Section 3 powers of the president. And what are the powers of the president? They're enumerated in the Constitution. You know, he only has a few of them, you know, recognizing foreign powers, selecting his cabinet. That is one of his enumerated powers. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But selecting his cabinet is a very important decision. It is argued over the course of Supreme Court decisions as one that is a personal decision on the side of the president. The founding fathers really recognized how important it was for the president to have a cabinet filled with advisors that he selected and he trusted. Now, the opposite side of that coin was, well, what if he just installs a bunch of tyrants? Well, that can be voted out by the people. If the people don't like the president's cabinet, they can vote him out. The other compromise was to bring in the Senate confirmation process. And as you mentioned, there's going to be some pushback to the nominees that President Trump has listed so far. The top pushback candidate will be Matt Gaetz, and hopefully there's some deals happening behind the scenes to bypass that.
Yeah, and if a recess appointment has to happen, then it has to happen. I don't prefer that. I'd rather have a good, solid process and everything else. But if these people are going to play games and re-prosecute the 2024 election and get in the way, then I think that's an option and should be. And to your point about the element of the enumerated power, so strong is that element that you had to imagine when Lincoln appointed a Democrat, Stanton, as his war secretary, it must have flipped out the Republicans, but it still happened. It still went through. So there's precedent for this, you know.
There absolutely is. And Stanton was a tyrant by all accounts. He was a guy who was suspending the writ of habeas corpus and pushing for that, right? Pushing for Lincoln to jump in and absolutely suspend the Constitution while we were at war. And that's the kind of power that is so tempting for so many people who are close to DC. But ultimately, the people have the final say. The Senate needs to be reminded of that. There's all kinds of chatter, Jamie, about ways to force a recess appointment even if Senate does not want to go on recess, there's obviously a way for there to be a conflict between the House and the Senate, and the president steps in, resolves the conflict by setting a recess date, and then pushing his recess appointments through. But even then, that's not a permanent solution.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the voters who came out on Election Day were not there to make Murkowski and Collins and Thune great again. They were out to make America great again, and so this is going to have a very low tolerance level for the voters there.
Yes, it will.
I know on Finer Point you do such a great job because you have such insight into the deep state. That's kind of one of the things you are very knowledgeable about, and all the machinations behind the scenes that we don't see, but that you have sources who see. And so you must know a lot about what is going on right now among the people in the deep state. It must be one massive freak out.
Oh, they are burning things as fast as they can. Now, Matt Gaetz did already warn any of these deep staters, hey, if you start destroying documents, you're going to be in trouble. But I think that their fear of what will be exposed about what these people did behind the scenes, contrary to America's interests, are so egregious, they'd rather probably risk, violating some rule against destroying documents than have their activities exposed. So I'm worried about that. They are petrified, by the way, of Doge. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have this incredible mandate. Department of Government Efficiency, that is going to be one of the most exciting chapters in U.S. government we will have seen in a very long time, Jamie. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do, but they're going to slash and burn. Matt Gaetz, he's going to slash and burn. And that's exactly what the American people sent Team Trump up to Washington to do. We did that the first round, but Trump's experience in D.C. was understandably misguided into thinking, well, if we work with these people, if we bring in knowledgeable deep staters to kind of work with us, we can get things done. No, this time they're going in with some sledgehammers.
I love what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy said on the Doge X page. So, they were thinking. So, and they wanted only high IQ people who are willing to work 80 hours a week. And I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like they mean what they're saying here.
I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're not even paying people to do this.
Wow.
If you're doing this, then you really want to do this. You really want to clean up Doge, clean up the government. And I really think they're going to start crowdsourcing information. Retirees, people who are in the government now, they might spot things and say, look, there's some massive waste happening in this department. Go check it out. And that's going to be something we're watching closely over the next year, because I think they've given themselves like a year to really wrap this up. Very ambitious goal, but considering the two brains that are behind it, it's something I think we'll all be cheering for a long time.
It's interesting too. They have a really already a book written for them every year, and that's the Citizens Against Government Waste Pig book. So that's an easy one. That's the low hanging fruit. They can start that, because what goes on right now, this whole pork barreling thing, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about, particularly the news media, not you and me, but the mainstream media. It's become such a part of life because they're all heavy on the importance of the institution and blah, blah, blah. They don't even bother. Like back when my day, during my investigative reporting days, we never missed a beat. I never missed a beat on this stuff. Now it's just an accepted part of political life, and they don't even give it any attention whatsoever.
No, they don't. And I believe they're bringing in Ron Paul, which again is a libertarian's dream to bring in Ron Paul, who's been railing about this stuff for decades now, and he's going to be helping in that effort. So that's incredible. But going back to deep state, they're trembling. Yes, they're probably destroying records. They're probably trying to recalibrate. I learned yesterday, Ann Neuberger, she's the Assistant National Security Advisor for Biden. She's a political appointee, which means she would leave when Biden leaves. She was on a panel trying to comfort her fellow Democrats and her fellow deep staters by saying she's going to try to move from the political appointee side into a civil servant side so that she can help lead the internal resistance against Trump. So when people are gleaning that from her messages, you know she's not alone. And that will also be a massive challenge. As big as the government is, it's really easy to hide people like her, burrow them in, bury them in some corner, and suddenly they're protected civil servants, which, again, all of that I think is about to change.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And before you were on, I was talking about this whole shadow cabinet that the lawmakers are all talking about, the Adam Schiffs of the world are talking about. So this guy goes on the floor of the House and says, we're going to come up with a shadow cabinet. So we've got Adam Schiff as the shadow attorney general and this so-and-so as the shadow Department of Education secretary. And then, of course, and these people obviously are idiots, went on and said, we're going to have a shadow secretary of state. Which actually would be a federal crime, of course. We have a shadow federal secretary of state who's going to go overseas and talk. Like, that's illegal, right? I mean, talk about an insurrection, but the sore losers. But I just don't think they're going to have a chance. They might as well focus on maybe meeting the needs of Americans instead of meeting their own needs, and that would probably help their party. Not that I care or want to help it, but that probably would help.
Jamie, what gets rid of a shadow? Light from every direction. And that's what this next team is all about. Light, not just from the White House, but it has to be light from Congress. It has to be light from the Senate. As questionable as the Senate leadership is right now, they're still going to have to shine light because their constituents demanded it. 7 million plus popular vote. That's a mandate. So light from every directions get rid of shadows. And I think that is going to be our only tool, our only weapon against the Adam Schiffs of the world. And boy, is Adam Schiff such a fixture inside the deep state and the intelligence community. I do not understand how he gets away with it. I would only imagine it's because there's compromise on the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll learn a lot more as some of these cabinets are opened, and I'm talking about the file cabinets are opened by the incoming people. I will have to say, Chanel, that I hope One America News, I hope OAN is getting sufficient credit for what we saw on Election Day and the changing tide of thought in this country. It's so funny because everybody's talking about all the podcasters and all the other alternative news sources and things like that. But OAN was one of the originals. I mean, when you look back, I mean, obviously it's a young, but really in the end, I have to say that OAN was one of the originals in terms of promoting common sense and conservatism to people who otherwise weren't getting it from any other news organizations. And so I hope you guys are getting the kind of proper props, even from President Trump, for being in the background and being kind of the unsung heroes of what ultimately became a movement. So I wanted to give you guys credit for that because I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. OAN has been solid. It has been true. It is a family-owned business. It's one-track mind news, and that is common sense coverage of America and America's causes. And we've been persecuted for it. We've been silenced and censored for it. The House Judiciary Committee confirmed that we were literally directly targeted by the Biden White House. We've had to go through a lot. We've had to survive a lot. But in the end, good prevails. Truth prevails. And it gets tough, really, really tough when we're in that middle phase. We've been in that middle phase under this very censorious Biden administration for 4 very long years.
Yeah.
So the future is bright and we are very excited. The new media landscape is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is filled with bright lights, really incredible talent, and OAN has moved into the live format. We're in the the streaming format and in ways that we wouldn't have been even a few years ago because we've been forced into that position. But it's just been incredible looking at the sea change that is happening behind the scenes and in public. Look at this letter that the Brandon Carr, the FCC chairman, put out 2 days ago, putting all of big tech on notice, saying, look, you guys have been hand in hand with the censorship industry and NewsGuard outlets, organizations that have made it their sole purpose to silence voices like us, like you guys. Those guys are put on notice now, and I think that's going to be really a positive turn for the country and for the future of free speech and new media. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ground you all plowed with courage helped a lot of these other organizations join the club a little more, and I'm glad about that. So I get the new slogan for you guys, like OAN is the OG. Is that all right? OAN. OAN.
Never
OG.
faltering. We never faltered. We stood our ground.
Right on. I mean, and you know, it's interesting. I was talking to Cortland the other day, and he had told me, and I didn't even see this, that Christina Bobb, who used to be a colleague of yours at OAN, they grabbed her.
It's insane what they're doing to anybody who, Christina Bobb has this incredible background. She's a Marine. She has an MBA. She's an attorney. She was executive secretary under Trump at DHS. She is an incredible woman. And because of her talent, they target her. She's formidable. She's a formidable force. And when the left sees someone who's formidable, who ticks all the boxes that they cannot counteract, they target. They targeted her very hard. She's battling some pretty nasty stuff out in Arizona. I couldn't speak to it as far as the details, but she's very strong, and she's been strong, unwavering. Hopefully, a lot of this lawfare nonsense starts to fade as the left realizes that they're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, I feel like her fortunes are better, especially since the election, and hopefully that will be the case. And one more thing I wanted to say, because you mentioned Ron Paul. Here's another thing that OAN and so many alternative news sources ultimately started to make people comfortable with, because I remember back in the day when Ron Paul was crazy, right? Oh, Ron Paul was against the Iraq war, everything else, and of course, as we get older, Daddy gets smarter, right? And Ron Paul was right the whole time. And I kind of lumped that in with, I remember back in the day when I was younger, and you probably weren't even born yet, but people were going, abolish the UN. And we're like, oh, those people are nuts, And now that's a really good idea. And the other one was end the Federal Reserve. And we're like, oh, those people are from Mars. Those people are crazy.
And the Fed.
And the Fed. And the Fed. Oh, you're nuts. You're like, you guys are moonbats and cranks and all that stuff. And it turns out they're right, too. So, man, I mean, things are coming around. And then also with RFK, remember the people who are like, stop fluoridating our water. It's like, oh, you guys are so paranoid. Forget it. Then the CDC comes out saying, yeah, you know what? It's pretty bad, but kids don't eat too much toothpaste. I'm like, wait. I think it's don't drink too much water now, right? Because you've been telling us to drink water. So anyway, it's a new day on a lot of different levels.
It is a new day, and I would keep my eye on Doge. I think that's going to accidentally, just over the process, it will accidentally uncover some really interesting, I guess, cockroach nets of DC.
Yeah, no
Lift
doubt.
up the log and you're going to find all the bugs. They'll all scatter. Air, oxygen, cleaning it out. There's going to be a massive cleaning. And this is a very, very different conversation that we are having now, a very different forecast of the future that we're having now from a Kamala Harris presidency.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just so happy. All right, so where can people find you? Where can they find Finer Point? How do we access it right away?
Go to OAN Live. Download OAN Live. It's available at any app store. OAN Live. You can get it for your smart TV or your devices, any device that streams. And my show is on every night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Fine Point. You can also watch it on demand. And we have an incredible lineup on the primetime show circuit. So please check that out. We will also probably be available on other streaming platforms, but right now the most reliable way to get us is through our app.
Yeah.
So download it.
I love the phone aspect of it because I have it on the phone, and oftentimes I am not necessarily on your show at the time because it's on the same time I'm on the News Talk STL. So I always catch up. On demand is really easy. So I always catch up with it whenever I just feel like it. And so that's a great thing. So congratulations on a fantastic show, Chanel, and really appreciate you being on the show. It's good to see you again.
It's so good to see and hear you, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.
Look, the future looks bright. Let's make it brighter.
No doubt about it. Chanel Rian, thank you so much. Have a wonderful and blessed weekend.
Same to you.
All right, that is Chanel Rian. Yeah, the OAN, I always say, when I talk about the OG, I mean, this is a lot of people have forgotten about OAN. I mean, they're so successful, but they kind of are almost the older versions of some newer things. And so don't forget about all the great work that they actually have been doing there at OAN. They do some really great work, and Chanel always has been a bright spot and a courageous one at OAN because it hasn't been easy. Oh man, they have railed over her, and it's hard. And so she's great. And Christina Bobb, I'll have to catch up with her because that is just so bad and disgusting what the Justice Department people are doing to Christina Bobb. So pray for her, that is for sure. Newstetter's Fine Jewelry. Yeah, right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. People, go in there this weekend. Tell them Jamie sent you, and also thank them for their support of free, common sense, conservative radio. They are wonderful people. And Richard and Jackie and Eric and Diana and Cindy and Anna, all amazing, beautiful people who love this country, love God, and also love the work that they do for you as a small business. And as jewelers go, they're top-notch. They've got the lab-grown diamonds, which are beautiful, amazing diamonds, and you're going to love the lab-grown version. They also have, of course, the mine diamonds, too. A lot of people prefer the lab-grown. They're sometimes just a little brighter, nicer, and they're controlled in their growth, like a flower is sometimes that you buy at Schnucks or Deerbergs or whatever it happens to be. So beautiful in that way. They can do anything with an old piece of jewelry, grandma's old ring. You want to kind of recreate that, reimagine that with a little few other stones. They love doing that with vintage jewelry and making it kind of come alive in a youthful way. Great Christmas idea, great gift idea there. They had the layaway plan they're bringing back. They have that, and they also have the wish list, so it makes it easy for you to go in and give your loved one some guidance as it relates to what you might want for Christmas or for the holidays or for the new year. So check it out at wowdiamonds.com. That's wowdiamonds.com. Newstetter's Fine Jewelry at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday to all of you and yours, you lovely people, on this fancy Friday. Gonna have a little Doug Giles action straight ahead for you, too. ClashDaily.com. Always love having Doug on the show on these fancy Fridays. All right, so by this time, it's probably over. So we've got the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. And in the run-up to this, and by the way, Tyson's 58 years old. He looks pretty good for being 58 years old. Jake Paul, Tyson's probably fought, 50 fights? Jake Paul has fought like 11. And I think, and again, I will either be wrong or right by now. So I'm predicting that Tyson's going to beat him. Now, Ethan, what do you think? Do you
okay? So I've got some background with this Jake Paul boxing situation.
Okay.
So, I know Mike Tyson's larger than life. Everybody knows Mike Tyson. People maybe don't know Anderson Silva as much as they know Mike Tyson, but Anderson Silva was one of the greatest mixed martial arts fighters of all time. Jake Paul beat him in boxing.
Oh,
why? So why Jake Paul's beating all these guys who have credentials that should mean that they should be better fighters than this Disney Channel star. Why is Jake Paul beating these guys? I don't know, but maybe he's better than we think. I hate to say it. I think he's going to beat Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't want him to. Trust me, I don't. But why did he beat everybody else I liked? I don't know. I've been dealing with that for a while.
Pretty much everybody I've talked to thinks that Jake Paul is going to beat Mike Tyson. So my position on this is that Mike Tyson and his experience, if you're Jake Paul and you're fighting mixed martial arts guys, that's one thing. But Tyson has a quickness and a fierceness that you got to watch out for. And the only thing that Jake Paul could do, I think, in this situation is just tire Tyson out, because Tyson is 58 years old. So all you've got to do is do the Muhammad Ali jump around, just tire the guy, do the rope-a-dope or do whatever that was called. I don't know much. I don't know that much about boxing, but I think that would be Jake Paul's secret weapon, is to make Tyson tired. And so I don't know.
What's exciting is, you can observe this too. Power doesn't go away. You're right that Tyson, he will get tired. He also might be slower, but no matter how old he gets, I think he's going to keep the same power in his punches, because George Foreman always kept the same power in his punches. No matter how old he was fighting for the belt, he still won the belt. So we still got that one punch knockout is on the board here. I was about to say.
Yeah,
maybe even if you block it, you're still going to get rattled by it.
Yeah.
You still got that going for him.
I was about to say, that's the thing that, Jake Paul kind of has to chip away at a victory, but Tyson could get one with one punch. So, I don't know, man. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be fighting Mike Tyson. I know
that's the thing. Which one would I rather fight? I rather would not be in there with Mike Tyson. So that's
yeah. So Tyson goes up at the weigh-in and slaps Jake Paul. And now I don't know whether there's a certain level of setup here or what it is. I think Tyson, what does he get, $40 million, and Jake Paul gets 20 or something? I don't know. And then Jake Paul was mad, man. He's like,
I didn't even feel it. He's angry. He's an angry little elf. Mike Tyson, I thought that was a cute slap, buddy, but tomorrow you're getting knocked the fuck out. I'm f***ing him up, Burial. I'm f***ing him up. He hits like a It's personal now. It's personal now. He must die.
He must die. I mean, that's pretty, I don't know, man. I'm not saying this is like pro wrestling or what have you, but that's, you anger Jake Paul like that. And Jake Paul also appears a little bigger than Mike Tyson. I
Isn't
don't know.
that weird? He's bigger than I thought he was. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
He's paying for the best, supplements and whatever, and best trainers. He's probably pretty big.
Yeah. I don't know. But you know what the funny thing is? They're both Trump supporters.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
We're at the UFC fight in Miami, and you walked up with Trump, and that place lost their mind when you guys walked. I don't know if you...
People don't like what Trump is the man. Trump is the man. He has this fan base. He has his supporters, and they're going to stick with him to the end.
How has he been to you over the years?
I never had a bad moment with him.
You've never had a bad moment?
No.
Did you...
Became very profited from him. Yes, it was just a great relationship.
When did you guys...
I just had dinner with him a week ago.
In Mar-a-Lago? Where were you?
In Mar-a-Lago.
How was that?
That was awesome. Me, him, Barron, and his mother, and it was just off the hook. Barron, he's so smart. The young kid. Barron
is smart.
Oh, Barron.
You knew that?
7 feet tall now or
No,
not yet?
6'8".
He's 6'8".
But you knew he was very intelligent?
I've heard a lot of weird stories.
Man,
Yeah.
this guy's on top of this game intellectually.
At 16 years old.
17.
17 now. Got it.
Was Melania there at dinner?
Yeah, she was there as well.
How was your interaction with her? What's she like?
Awesome. It's like the president's wife, the first lady.
So, he's like friend had dinner with Trump at one point. And Jake Paul, meanwhile, not to be outdone, publicly supported Trump and endorsed him.
Nervous, scared to make this video because of what it means in terms of my career, my life, people coming after me, more accusations, more turmoil, more division potentially. However, I just want to provide information to the potentially undecided voter, the things that I have seen over the past couple of years that have led me in a certain direction as to who I am supporting in this presidential election. And most of all, encouraging y'all to actually vote, encouraging y'all to actually do your own research and to base that research in the truth, not just reckless propaganda or your favorite pop star telling you to vote a certain way.
And I got to tell you, in the end, what Jake Paul did was a huge service to Trump because, he's a YouTuber. A lot of young people know who Jake Paul is. He's one of those guys. He's not necessarily a Joe Rogan, but people know who he is, and especially young people do. I know my son does.
And you believing them because you love their song. And with that said, after watching this video, you shouldn't necessarily just listen to me either. Do your own research before you go and vote. But I highly, highly, highly encourage you to exercise your right to vote. Because I moved to Puerto Rico in pursuit of becoming a world champion in my boxing career, I have rescinded my right to vote. But that doesn't mean I can't present my 80 million large audience with proper facts, numbers, and data to encourage them to vote in the proper direction.
Anyway, this is an 18-minute video. So, and then also, by the way, I'm watching it, and I'm thinking that that Jake Paul seems a little fatter than Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson looks a little leaner, and Jake Paul looks a little fatter. Just please don't tell Jake Paul I said that.
Personal now. It's personal now.
You'll get mad at me.
Must die.
Allman must die. How dare you call me fat? I'm like, I know. Who am I to call him that way? Anything? But still, he does look a little pudgier than Tyson does. He better watch out, man. But yeah, actually, in the end, by the time you see this, it'll be over, and I could be wrong or I could be right. Ethan could be wrong. Ethan could be right. And so we'll let the chips fall where they may. Speaking of, this is just another fun thing that we're watching in terms of people crying about the election.
If you voted for Trump,
so this woman, this Connecticut teacher, she threatened to kill people who vote for Donald Trump, and she has since resigned from her job. But for some reason, she decided to go on television to be interviewed about it. And it didn't really go very well.
If you voted for Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and then I can handle you how I see fit. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the blank you voted for. You're not in the clear. Please don't test your gangster on me because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so
it sounds like a threat.
It sounds very extreme. And again, I was in a moment of high emotions and I shouldn't have ever posted the video.
You know what's funny is that the editor of Scientific American resigned because of her outrage over the results of the election that she put on some social media site. Scientific American. Of course, we've been talking about this whole time. Scientific American isn't Scientific American anymore. It's like a Democrat left-wing rag promoting global warming, green energy, all this other nonsense. And so we've wound up actually having that confirmed by the temper tantrum that the editor took. Anyway, back to Crybaby here.
But what the message I was trying to get across, and it came off very wrong, was, if this is going to give people the almost permission in their minds to enact violence against women or anybody, I wanted to basically just say, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I mean, it's my life's dream to be a teacher. I consider those kids my kids because I don't have any of my own.
We dodged a bullet there then, because the fledgling replacement mommy would not have been really all that great if I'm a parent. I'm like, listen, you can teach my kid, but my kid is not your kid. I don't care whether you don't have any kids, but my kid is not like a stand-in child for you. My kid is not replacing the void in your life.
You feel that for me, and it's so fulfilling. It's so rewarding. And I know that what people see right now, I don't look like that person, but I truly would do anything to help any child and any family in need.
Yeah, well, we're not doing that.
Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please don't test your gangster on me, because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever.
Yeah, nice teacher. Hey, Whoopi Goldberg, her claim of poverty not going over too well. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Fancy Friday to all of you and yours. This is Common Sense Radio on NewsTalkSTL, people. Doug Giles on the way. And this is great. John Kennedy's back. And I'm talking about Senator John Kennedy. And he was on during this appearance of Mustafa Kasubai, who is a fledgling judicial nominee. And so you had this magistrate judge, Mustafa of Oregon, appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday. And they're trying to kind of keep running through these radical judges before their time runs out, Schumer and the gang. And so they want to get as many radical activist judges in on the federal bench before the new Congress is sworn in January. So Democrats have been trying to push this judge's approval to the U.S. District Court. A lifetime appointment is what this is. It's a lifetime appointment to the U.S. District Court. It's been going on for a year now. And this Kasubai guy is completely crazy and radical. And they've had a few of these hearings. He's the first Muslim American to be appointed to the federal bench. And John Kennedy doesn't care. He's going to dig down deep. And what's funny is that in this exchange, it's great because Kennedy actually made Senator Tom Cotton laugh because this was so ridiculous. Because Mustafa Kasubai makes people who come before his court announce their pronouns. That's what they have to do when they first open their mouths in his court, is announce their pronouns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Kasubai, I'm looking at an order you issued as a magistrate judge here requiring the use of pronouns in your court. Do you require the use of pronouns, the declaration of one's pronouns in your court?
Senator, that may be referring to perhaps a trial management order or a scheduling order of some kind?
Yeah. No, it's a statement. You issued it. Here it is.
It's an invitation for people to identify their pronouns and or their honorifics.
Well, I'm looking at your requirement that you issued to all people in your court. You say, quote, when you introduce yourself in a meeting, you should say, my name is Judge Blank and my pronouns are blank. Is that right?
Senator, those were not requirements or rules. Those were suggestions and
they were suggestions.
Those were suggestions and invitations for people to use.
And you also, in your directive, you say, quote, I'd like counsel to introduce themselves, giving your full name and your honorific, such as Ms., MS period, Mix, or Mr., not Mrs. And if your client will be making an appearance, I ask you to please introduce them to the court by giving me their full name and their honorific, such as Ms., MS period, Mix, or Mr.
So Cotton's sitting there on the other end, just dying, because he's sitting right next to John Kennedy, and he's just like, this guy's not going to make it. They're going to sit here and they're going to drag this thing out, and there's no reason why some woke idiot needs to have a lifetime appointment to the U.S. District Court. There's no reason for that. All right, so you guys remember this. I didn't talk about this too much because there was so much going on in terms of breaking news, but Whoopi Goldberg on The View. She makes $8 million a year doing The View, aside from having amassed a fortune of $27-30 million, whatever. And she claimed poverty.
Candidate who has been running for 12 years, who lies and changes things. I appreciate that people are having a hard time. Me too. Yeah. I work for a living. If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here. Okay? So I'm a working person.
I'm a working person, she says. So apparently, her working person, she doesn't have all the money in the world, but she does have a $16 million property portfolio, and she makes $8 million a year just for hosting The View. She owns at least 4 homes, mansions in New Jersey, upstate New York, a Soho loft in NYC, and a colonial-style property in Connecticut. So this person isn't struggling. She sold her Pacific Palisades mansion back in 2022 for $8.8 million, and so she made a $6 million profit on that one. So these people who go on there and say, you know, I feel your pain or I'm poor too, it's like this is unbelievable that she would even go there. And so all around Twitter, she's like, what are you doing here? Why you gotta be so tone deaf to be this celebrity who's going to go on television on The View and claim poverty. Like you're like everybody else, and everybody knows you're not like everybody else. And by the way, you know, she's got the money and that kind of money, but she still goes on The View, but that's because they pay her $8 million a year. I'm not quite sure there's anybody on the planet. Well, I mean, there's some people, I guess, if you've got $300 million in the bank, you're like, I don't want to do $8 million a year. But, you know, sometimes, you know, wealthy people want to make every chance to stay wealthy. And this is exactly what Whoopi Goldberg is doing. So nobody is buying it in any way, shape, or form. All right, if you can believe this, there is an undercover video from a guy with the UN saying that the UN and other warmongers were rooting for Nikki Haley to be the president, and we all can guess why. So I'll have that for you on the other side of this, and don't forget Doug Giles on the way. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Fancy Friday. I have decided to call an audible here because I do not believe that you despise Whoopi Goldberg enough. And so I need to add another Whoopi Goldberg to the Fancy Friday Allman Report, another Whoopi Goldberg story, aside from the fakery of her lies about being somehow impoverished, just like you and me. So this, I'm telling you what, man, you make these allegations on TV against some bakery, like a hardworking bakery on Staten Island. Do you think that hardworking bakery is going to like sit down and let you smear them? So Whoopi Goldberg basically brought in some cupcakes for a birthday on The View. And so she brought in Whoopi Goldberg and her co-host Sunny, Elisa, Joy Behar, and Sarah Haynes celebrated her 69th birthday with these cupcakes from a bakery, which Goldberg said were her mother's favorite growing up. But then suddenly she decides to say this.
That made these refused to make them for me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What? Oh,
no. Let me explain. They said that their ovens had gone down, all kinds of stuff, but folks went and got them anyway, which is why I'm not telling you who made them. But can't be because I'm a woman, but perhaps they did not like my politics. Yeah. But that's okay, because you know what? Listen. This is my mother's celebration. Yeah. Pick these up and celebrate with me and my mom.
Yeah. So anyway, she called this bakery out, and the bakery and their attorneys yesterday said, this ain't happening here. We're going to fight back against this smear from Whoopi Goldberg, who apparently she said was discriminated against because of her political beliefs, of course playing victim in the wake of Donald Trump's victory.
Who has had to endure something that she shouldn't have to endure. These people are up at 3 or 4 o'clock every morning. The sacrifices they've made, the holidays they've missed with their families. To make Staten Island better, they have sacrificed for 145 years. Rutherford B. Hayes was the president of the United States, for God's sakes. And they're still here, and they're still strong, and they're not going anywhere, despite what other people on television have to say. And frankly, the people who defamed the Holterman family should apologize to the Holterman family for making stuff up to suit their needs. Not everybody wakes up every day and thinks about politics.
It's a whole group of people.
A good business person doesn't care about anybody's politics. So with that, I'd like to call up Jill Holterman Bowers. She deserves our 110% support. Jill, come on.
It's a community that I have to tell you, I'm so overwhelmed by the support between finding out yesterday this even happened, getting phone calls, and then people coming in, people from all over just supporting us in every way. We had phone calls yesterday from Alabama. Guy says, I'm going to give you $50, send it to a school, send them donuts, send them cupcakes. The support has been so overwhelming, and I know how hard my family has worked to keep this business alive, and I wish my father was here today to see this. He would never believe it. My bakers come in 2 or 3 in the morning just to have donuts and rolls for everybody to come in and say, we have the best rolls ever. And you know what? It took my whole family. It takes everybody, the community that comes every day to see us. We have this everyday conversation with everybody. How's the family? How's this? This is what makes Holterman's. It's the community. It's my fellow everything that come out, and us giving back to the community that makes this go round. And if it wasn't for you and Staten Island to make this work, we still wouldn't be here today.
So they didn't have the ability to make the cupcakes because the boiler was down. And now they're demanding an apology from Whoopi Goldberg. They're demanding she retracts this statement because people do have problems. Establishments do have things happen, and ovens, boilers go down. You can't do anything.
So I know my brother, Billy, work hard. Joe, my baker in the back, is here 6 days a week. He gives his heart and soul to this place. And you know what? My father always said, you do what you love. I'm telling you, this is my heart. And I thank you so much for everybody come out and support us with the Holtzman family. It means the world to me. It really does. Thank you so much.
I mean, this is like a live news conference.
So good, so good. The goodness
Fox News
prevails.
took,
And just a little background for those who know, they had a boiler here. Again, it's been here 145 years. They had a boiler that was 60 or 70 years old. And the first week in November, guess what? It went on the fritz. They had to be replaced. And the reputation of Holterman's is impeccable, so rather than commit to something they couldn't guarantee, they said we can't do it. And the person who besmirched and defamed them took that as an insult to her. Well, get over it. This family will be here for, God willing, another 145 years. And as Jill said, it's her family. It's the Staten Island.
Yeah, so anyway, you don't mess with Staten Island, apparently. And Whoopi Goldberg got a little bit of an earful there regarding her lie that she told on the View. Unbelievable. All right, and one more thing about food, people, okay? So the McDonald's is back in the news, Ethan, because and I'm hungry again. So just making me more hungry. So now they're apparently announcing that the McDonald's Quarter Pounders E. coli outbreak now has gone to 104 people in the United States of America. And one person died. And by the way, I'm not blaming that person for dying. I'm just saying that E. coli affects people differently. And if you're already compromised, E. coli is not going to be good for you. Some people get E. coli and nothing happens to them. So anyway, these were a result of the raw onions served on McDonald's Quarter Pounders. So that's the thing about McDonald's Quarter Pounders is the onions are not cooked, they're raw. And so apparently this caused whatever problems there were. And here's what the FDA says. So we don't know whether or not what they're saying is right? You never know. Just listen to Robert Kennedy Jr. There no longer appears to be any food safety concerns at McDonald's. So my question now is, then why talk about this? Why bring it up? Why continue to talk about the McDonald's E. coli outbreak if it's not because you're just looking for some other thing to kind of troll McDonald's about, which appears to be the truth? This is interesting, too. So this United Nations manager is caught on tape talking about how war is the moneymaker, and those at the United Nations were hoping that someone like Nikki Haley would be the next president because they were banking on it because they said war is the moneymaker. This piece of tape is up there on the gatewaypundit.com. I want to go ahead and take this break so I can get over to the great Doug Giles. So go ahead to gatewaypundit.com and you can see that video for you. I appreciate Jim Hoft and all that he does on the gatewaypundit.com. I was on Phoenix Radio yesterday, last night, and I was on at the same time a show was on, and I had Jimmy Hoft on, so he made his national appearance. We talked about the Kari Lake election and what looks like a theft of the election from her, but for now it looks like it's died down, and that's too bad. But we'll see what happens with Kari Lake and her future in a possible Trump administration. All right, Doug Giles ahead here on the Allman Report on this Fancy Friday, News Talk STL.
You're listening to the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Good evening and happy Fancy Friday to all of you and yours. It's just the Allman Report, and always on a Fancy Friday, we've got one of the hardest working men in show business, people. His name is Doug Giles, ClashDaily.com, DougGiles.org, DougGiles.art, you name it. And before we even get started on the events of late, I want to just begin instead of end with the promotion of this brand new and superb book. It's the coffee table book of all the great art that Doug Giles has promoted over the past 20 years. Looks great, man. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's this book is volume 1, and it's all my biblical warrior oil paintings, 73 of them, 20 years worth of work. And Jamie, I haven't seen anything out there like this at all. So it's my depiction of the rowdy men and women of the scripture. And I paint stuff, man, that I've had Christians say, I didn't even know that was in the Bible. I didn't even know that person existed. And so it's epic characters, it's epic events. Like the painting I showed you before we started this hit was Jesus casting demons from this naked demoniac into this herd of pigs, and then the pigs committing suicide by bailing off the cliff into the ocean. I haven't seen that in Sunday school, but there it is, man, glaring, bigger than Dallas in Mark chapter 5. I've got another painting of David holding Goliath's head up, as a teenager. And I had this one Jewish guy in Miami. I gave him the poster, and he gave it back to me. So I gave him a print. I didn't give him the originals. I gave him a print of it. He gives it back to me. He says his wife doesn't want his 10-year-old son to see that kind of imagery. And I was like, dude, it's in the frickin' Bible. If you have a lick of an imagination, you can imagine teenage David holding Goliath's gnarly noggin up in the air as a symbol, as a trophy of God's deliverance from that 9-foot monster. So a lot of epic Old Testament stuff, Jamie. A lot of, there's guys and girls. One of my favorite paintings is the one I did of Rahab. Rahab was a whore. She was a prostitute. And the way that she got justified by faith and made right with God is that she covered over the spies that were coming into Jericho to check out the promised land. And when the authorities of Jericho found out that they were there and that they were hanging out with Rahab at her at her bordello, they inquired into Rahab where they were, and she's like, "Oh, they left town," and she hid them up on the roof. And so here's this hooker who lies that gets justified by faith. God said, "High five, baby. That was a good move." And what's funny is that Rahab, and I guarantee most little Christians don't know this who are listening to your show, she's in Christ's lineage. She's Jesus's great granny, at least according to his fleshly line. And there she sits, man. What did Granny used to do for a living? Oh, she used to work at Tootsie's. She used to hook a little bit. And so I think it's amazing. I think the Bible is absolutely just mesmerizing type literature, and the epic themes and going straight to Christ and his resurrection from the dead. Man, you can't beat it. You cannot beat it. And so 73 paintings. The book's not ready yet. So what I showed you is a preview copy, but it's pretty dang close.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be ready if we're going to do this on next Friday. I think Friday it'll be up on Amazon. This is a perfect gift, man. I don't care if you're Protestant, Catholic, whatever. If you dig the scripture and you got an imagination, what a great gift for the spiritual warriors that are in your life. Yeah, if I would give it to my pastor, I'd give it to my priest. It's freaking phenomenal. And there's a lot of scripture in there, Jamie, to, again, show the springboard that caused me to start pushing paint in particular.
Yeah, I love it, buddy. And, it's so interesting when you mentioned about this woman and her grandson or son or whatever it was, and not wanting to see that imagery of David. And then you go on to Rahab. And, I think if more young people, because I know growing up in Sunday school, you don't learn anything about some of these very real and very interesting and very complicated, great characters that you just described, that you have described in Biblical Badasses and everything else. And it's interesting how that would create, I think, a whole new avenue of enlightenment and interest among young people if they learned the Bible in the way that even you describe it. And yet there's no class, there's no Sunday school doesn't do that. And so everything is kind of like this sanitized, weird, older guy with a beard type of approach, instead of knowing some of these real characters that make up the mosaic of ultimately the Christian faith.
Yeah, and when you cut, all those goodies out that you're talking about, and all these, eclectic bunch of just idiosyncratic Star Wars bar scene of weird characters that God used and utilized greatly. When you extricate that, and then you put some freaking bland ass St. Louis or Austin, Texas little Christian in, that's teaching Sunday school, and everybody's supposed to be like him. So everybody turns into Todd, and he's gelded and he wears a cardigan. Man, you look at the men and women in the scripture. Ooh, dude, like you said, it's a mosaic. It's a kaleidoscope of just weird humanity. And you know what it does to me, Jamie? Because I'm a freak, You're weird. That's why we get along so well. That's why we've been buddies for a long time. Is that I don't want to be a flippin' clone. I don't want to be a little Christian clone. I want to have the Word of God and the Spirit of God define who I am, and not some stupid denomination or non-denomination or some, Protestant or Catholic. You're not going to define me. And we talk about this all the time. And you look again at those guys, those girls, and man, they are varied. They are exciting. And it gives latitude to the believer to be who they are in God without feeling, that they're weird because, again, their youth pastor doesn't understand them, or some crap like that. So anyway, I'm preaching, but I got a license to do it, man.
I love it when you look at actually the diversity of all these people you're talking about in the Bible. And I know people are going to go, here comes Allman comparing Trump to Jesus again. No, what I'm saying is all those people you described sound like the people who came out last Tuesday and voted for Donald Trump. I'm talking about real, flawed, normal, average, everyday Americans. And I tried to make this symmetry even last week because right now, because we're seeing it, like, for instance, among the U.S. senators and all these guys clutching their pearls over Trump's appointments because they're not real. They're not like polished people like they are, right? And I always liken those people like Thune and these guys to the scribes and the Sadducees who always were trying to encourage Jesus to reject the flawed, so-called abnormal people and instead give homage to the experienced, the guys who followed the rules and did all that kind of stuff. And Jesus had to tell them, it's a brand new day, man. We're not doing that anymore. But the people you all describe, which is why I think this whole coalition of Trump voters is such a beautiful movement, because it is so diverse. Everybody talks about the wonderment of diversity. Well, you just got it last Tuesday, but people are missing it.
Yeah, the left, they cheer on diversity and equality or equity, and what's the other one? Ignoramuses or something like that. And but here, like you said, true diversity in that cabinet. Frickin' RFK Jr. I'm surprised Russell Brand's not in there yet. Or Rogan. You got Vivek. You've got Elon, Tulsi, Bugram. God, who am I missing? Matt Gaetz. You've got, I mean, again, that's an eclectic mix. That's truly diverse. And again, like you said, they're not beholden to the ruling class of Washingtonian elders, Jamie. And that's why they're shitting bricks right now, because those guys are headhunters. Those guys are disruptors. They're going to come in and they're going to do it. And I bet they'll be giggling, Jamie, when they do it. They're going to drain that swamp. I can hear the drainer twirling right now, Jamie.
Yeah.
I can hear it in the spirit realm. And yeah, 80% cut Elon on Twitter. That's coming to DC, baby. And also they're going to clean that filthy city up and treat the homeless properly, get the filth and the graffiti off the streets. And when anytime, BLM or Antifa decides that they're going to scroll some crap on Thomas Jefferson's statue, I think they're going to get shot this time. And I think they're going to go to jail for about 10 years. Jamie, I freaking am on cloud nine, still waiting for these appointments, obviously, to be confirmed. But I think it's a new day, brother. I can't imagine what it would have been like if that cackling cultural Marxist got in the White House. Our kids, our grandkids, and our great grandkids would suffer in such an indescribable way. But God gave us a reprieve, big dog. And like I said, it came through the weird one, the one that Christians and the politicians said he was a brute who does mean tweets. Yeah, you know what? He also can change stuff. And God's looking for an agent of change, not just more of the same.
Yeah, and you could tell, too, because, Thune and Murkowski and Collins and all those people, Trump won in spite of them and without them. And now suddenly they want to kind of have a say, notwithstanding the reality that cabinet appointments are not in dispute. They're not Supreme Court nominations. They are given as enumerated powers, part of the Trump the part of the Constitution. That's what they ought to just be giving him to him. I mean, obviously you do go through some hearings, but these guys pretending like this is, now we got to take these hearings, got to ask them a lot of questions. Like, no, you don't. This should be a rubber stamp. You rubber stamped it for Merrick Garland. You're not rubber stamping it now because it's Trump, And so this shouldn't even be a process or with any kind of trepidation whatsoever. And I'm just insulted that Thune and these guys suddenly are searching for that relevancy again. It's really crazy.
Yeah, their best bet going forward for their livelihood and their reputation, their legacy, is just freaking do what Trump is telling them to do.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. By the way, I thought you'd be interested in this too, because it also actually has a Christianity tied to it too. So Pete Hegseth, right? Did you see the latest story? I can't remember who was doing it, one of these mainstream outlets, and they had a picture of his bare chest, and they were analyzing all of his tattoos. And that he has tattoos that reflect Christian nationalist iconography and all this stuff, because he had like crusade stuff on it. Here's a guy who served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now they're actually starting to question and dissect his tattoos.
Yeah, they're groping, man. It's like that looks like Nazi stuff right there, man.
Yeah.
It's a Jerusalem cross, dumbass.
Right.
What's that phrase on his bicep? What does that mean? It means like God is alive or something.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, also, these guys, I know a lot of people who are of Christian faith who, keep in mind who we were fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, and it's the Muslims. So that's not lost on a lot of people. And while it's not technically akin to the Crusades, it is a crusade of sort. And I would not feel embarrassed or in terms of the left, be afraid of someone who thought about that when they were actually risking their lives on behalf of this country.
Yeah, again, you got a qualified young dude who's spot welded to Trump's agenda, who's a highly decorated war veteran, who's got Hollywood good looks. It's driving them nuts. In the meantime, there's Rachel Levine, and who's that queer dude that with the bald head and goatee and wear bright red lipstick and go steal women's luggage at the airport.
Yeah.
And then the other dude that's having sex in one of the rooms and filming it in the White House. And anytime we had a problem with that horse scat, all of a sudden we were transphobes and we were bigots. And I think the thing that there's such meritocracy in Trump's appointments and all the people that he's fleshing his cabinet out with, that the only thing that they can do is, again, they dig, assertively into some little minutia that people, with 3 teeth and an IQ of 50, they're not even concerned about. And they're trying to stay hip. They're trying to stay relevant. They're trying to, be the disruptors and divisive. And all they're going to do is just further and further push themselves to the sidelines of life, where they become totally irrelevant. I saw on CNN the other day, like between the demographics at a week from the election night, the demographics and the 25 65-year-old market, they had 61,000 viewers, Jamie. Bro, I do a podcast, I do something like that. I'm getting pretty close to CNN, and guess how much money I'm spending on it? Not really much.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Well,
I'm glad.
You saw MSNBC too. I mean, Fox Business did a check on their viewership levels and compared the levels of November 8th to the levels of October 30th, and every single show progressively was down 40, 50. Lawrence O'Donnell down 60.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
67% on O'Donnell.
Why? I was going to ask you, because normally I can try to analyze something and come to a pretty intelligent conclusion about what's going on there. And I can't figure that out. I can't figure out, like, where are these people going, or what happened to their viewership? Like, what prompted a left-winger to stop watching MSNBC after the loss? I have ideas, but what do you think happened there?
I think the audience saw that they were lied to. All the polls. Oh, it's just, it's a gnat hair away. It looks like Kamala's going to win.
Yeah.
And then you got Chick in Iowa's like, Kamala's up by 13 points. And then it's like, no, you lied to us. And not only that, are people seeing that, these polls are full of more crap than a colicky baby's diaper. I think also when you listen, because I would go back and forth and just see how, CNN and MSNBC and see how hysterical they were getting. They're a bunch of whiny bitches. And I include the guys in with that. And they're always carpy. They're always whining. There's nothing, glorious. There's nothing joyous. There's nothing resplendent, And I think people just tap out, man.
Yeah.
And you go over to Fox, even News Nation. I mean, News Nation, you look at Cuomo, it's like, man, you're either born again or you're making a serious strategic move with your livelihood, because you're sounding a lot like a conservative.
Yeah.
And you're getting a space now that wouldn't be afforded to you over at CNN if they would ever hire you back. And you got Newsmax, and then you got the flood of X and getting, news and your show and other stuff where people are just like, they're just like,
yeah,
to the ones that used to be, the trusted news, the most trusted news and broadcasting, that ship has sailed, man. I don't even know if they can resurrect that.
I guess I also feel like, some of these viewers, they have only themselves to blame for wanting to be lied to. I feel like they went to MSNBC and these other organizations as kind of like a pacifier, as kind of like, pigs in slop. They just wanted to have it. They felt comfortable there. And even though they knew in the deep down that Kamala Harris was inauthentic, fake, even Ocasio-Cortez had to acknowledge that, they still seemingly wanted to be lied to in the hopes that maybe at some point this land of Keebler elves really did exist. And so a lot of them, I think, just went there as a pacification more than anything else, and just finally had to give up and just couldn't stand it anymore because they weren't going to sit there and listen to Joe Scarborough and others just keep bitching about the new president. So, yeah, I think that must be it. And Cuomo, I can't tell whether or not this is his authentic self or the authentic self when he was with Don Lemon and flirting with him every night on CNN. I can't tell who's who there. It's kind of like the Bill Maher thing. It's like, I don't know whether I could trust him. I could see Bill Maher, because, I mean, I know we love it when he says things we agree with, and then suddenly next time around he calls Trump a terrible person. I'm like, I don't know about this dude, you know?
Yeah, I was watching Cuomo last night. He had on Tom Homan, which yeah, Homan is one of my favorites of Trump's picks, man. If I was Julio and I'm over here illegal and I'm playing in the schoolyard, fulfilling, you know, a Simon and Garfunkel dream that I had, you know, from 30, 40 years ago, I would be sweating my huevos right now, because if he finds you, you're going home. You're going home. You can't argue with him. You're not going to be saying, you know, but my abuela, she lives here. It's like, so grandma's legal, you ain't. And he's a bulldog, man. I've never seen that cat smile. And I've, you know, seen him around a lot of guys trying to get him to crack up. But Cuomo tried last night, and Cuomo tried to challenge Homan on, you know, Trump's policies and how they're going to catch and fillet once they get the cartels under wraps and stuff. And Homan put him in his place. And Cuomo was you could tell he was rattled. And so I don't know if he's legit or not. I'm just glad that, you know, he's not doing the same kind of garbage, you know, he was doing.
I agree. And Homan is interesting, and I've used this terminology before, but he kind of is a guy who is straight out of like a Bowery Boys film. And I say that because, you know, he's an example of those kind of supposedly unpolished and not, you know, kind of sparkly, not a Mayorkas dressed up kind of, you know, tie wearing, you know, everything's coiffed, everything else. And even his manner of speaking, you know, isn't swampy or anything else. He's just like one of these guys that is a super hard worker, obviously decades in law enforcement, everything else, and tough as nails. But he's that kind of raw personality that I really appreciate. And, of course, that Trump respects. He respects the raw personalities. And it's so funny because yesterday when I played this, when there were people from the sanctuary cities all saying, well, we're not going to cooperate. We're going to stand in the way. And Illinois Governor Pritzker and the mayor of Phoenix, and we're a sanctuary. We're not going to do this. And Homan's like, you can get in our way, and I'll just double the number of ICE agents in your community, and we'll just run right over you. And he was dead serious about it too. He goes, you want to stand in our way? We'll just double the amount of staff, double the amount of ICE agents, and it won't matter what your position is.
Yeah, and cut the federal spigot off of money that they get also.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's interesting about Homan, like all the left's like, oh, my God, he's the devil. It's like, well, Obama, he hired the devil when he was in the White House. And wasn't Homan in charge of the border under Obama's administration, too? And didn't Obama deport, 3 times more people than George W. Bush?
Oh, yeah. They called him the deporter in chief.
Yeah. It's fine when Obama does it, you know, but if Trump, you know, moves in that direction, oh my God, Beauregard, I'm feeling faint right now.
No, it's so true. And I think that in the end, the people that he has, that President Trump has amassed around him in this cabinet, this is like one of the greatest cabinets I've ever seen, just because of the diversity of people. And of course, he's a woman hater, so he appoints, you know, a female as his chief of staff, you know.
Yeah, I didn't hear any high praise, you know, for number 47 on that selection.
No.
You know, from the yapping, cackling witches that make up the coven on The View.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, Susie Watts, she's amazing. And, of course, not to mention Tulsi Gabbard and the women he's surrounding himself with as advisors. I mean, I just think it's an amazing time. And every day there's like a new interesting twist. I can't wait to see who he's going to choose as his press secretary. Do you have any ideas on who that might be?
Yeah, if I was him, man, I would go for like Bill Burr or Sebastian Maniscalco,
Bill Burr. That would
Just
be.
unleash them.
Oh, yeah. That would be just epic. I would love it. So that would be really off the grid instead of like a Scott Jennings from CNN who's done a pretty good job on there. But, somebody like a little more glib, and Bill Burr would be fantastic. It's a good idea, man.
Sprinkle the dailies with some F-bombs and stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then Bill bring in some sports, scores and analogies.
Right. Yeah.
Continue with the Viva la Différence,
Yeah, just to read the football scores on a Monday from the Sunday. All right, Doug, great. Congratulations on that coffee table book. It looks wonderful. We'll check you out at douggiles.art and douggiles.org and classdaily.com. And that's going to be ready for Christmas ordering, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, so it's the title is Giles Volume 1, the Biblical Warriors Collection. So I'll send a link to you, Jamie, and you can blow it out to your your place out there.
Yeah, I definitely will, man. Congratulations. It looks great, and really appreciate you being on the show with us on this Friday, buddy.
Right on. Stay ready.
All right, that is Doug Giles. Yeah, the Bill Burr idea is a really good one. You guys have any more ideas? If you have any ideas, feel free to put them up in the comment section. Some people have said that Scott Jennings over there at CNN could actually be a good one. I just, given all of his wonderfully off the grid appointments thus far, I feel like whoever he chooses is going to be someone that we don't really expect and might not be the one that everybody else expects. So it could go along the lines of the Matt Gaetz appointment, which I thought was great, as always. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Love you so much. Appreciate you guys. And I want you to go ahead and check it all out as we are on Rumble. We are on X. We are always beyond the pale available to you. Podcast as well. NewsTalkSTL.com/Allman Report. You can check it out. And Ethan Valencia, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And you guys too. Love you all. Thanks for watching.